Hi, everyone. I hope you're doing well. I'm JJ, and today I want to talk about something that's really important to me. And it's actually something that a lot of students are afraid of, which is accents, specifically accents and pronunciation. I'm just going to say it right here, right now. Accents are not that important. In fact, if anything, you can still be a fluent speaker. You can still be fluent at a language and never have a quote unquote native pronunciation or accent. And I really want to emphasize that language is really about communication, and accents are not the be all and end all. So I want to talk a little bit about that today, and let's get right into it. So first things first, who am I? Well, like I said, I'm JJ, and I'm currently an English teacher, and I'm also studying a Master's of Applied Linguistics for Language Teaching at the University of Oxford. And I say all this because oftentimes when people are very angry or it seems to me that when people are very angry at other people for accents or having bad pronunciation or using slang or not perfect whatever language it is, whether it's English, whether it's like French or Spanish or whatever, usually these people, it seems to me, they're monolingual. It seems to me like most of these people who get angry at others or who are very uptight about what is proper language and what is correct or incorrect language, most of them are either monolingual or most of them don't, how do I say this? They don't necessarily do a lot of research or study linguistics or study languages at a high level, because when you look into linguistics, and really quickly, these are my opinions, I might be completely wrong. When you look into the history of languages, almost every language has developed and evolved. Every language, if you look at, for example, English, the English we use today, 1,000 years ago was completely different. Or the English, Old English, the English of Beowulf, completely different. And so if you look at the history of language, almost every language has this constant argument. Oh no, different people are changing the language. The young people are making the language all this blah, blah, blah. It's nonsense. Every language changes and evolves. And in fact, it's a good thing, because what that means is that the language stays current. It stays relevant. And so I really want to encourage, for those of you who are worried about, oh no, I don't feel good about using this language because of my pronunciation or because of my accent. This video, I really want to encourage you to be proud of your accent. There's nothing wrong with you. There's nothing bad at all. And I'll talk about that in a bunch of different ways. The first one is language. At the core of language, it's about communication. Accents are not a measure of your intelligence. This is an idea that the comedian Trevor Noah talks about quite often, and I really agree with him. It's not about how smart or how stupid you are. Accents are none of that. Accents really, at the end of it, it's about identity. It's about where you're from. It's about which group do you think that you belong to? And accents also talk a lot about your experiences in your life. What kinds of people have you been around? What kind of input in that language or exposure to that language have you had? So I'll give you an example. For example, in any language, languages often have different accents depending on where you're from, depending on which city you're from, depending on where you represent. And for example, even in English, right? Someone from Canada or the United States might speak very differently from someone in the UK, in the United Kingdom. Does that mean that one accent is better or worse? No, it's just where they're from. And so oftentimes when people are talking about accents, when people are angry about accents, unfortunately, actually a lot of it has to do with, it could be geopolitics, it could be discrimination based on things like ethnicity and race. There's a lot of stuff inside that they're using language as an excuse, but to be honest, it's absolute nonsense, because you would not say to someone from New York that someone from Boston doesn't speak proper English, and likewise, someone from London or someone from Leeds in the United Kingdom, they both speak English, It's no problem. But then why is it that when someone is, let's say, someone of Asian descent speaking in English, all of a sudden it's not proper? Or someone of Indian descent, or someone from the continent of Africa. And so we have all of these, there are a lot of things that are actually interwoven. And so one thing that I really want to make clear is that, this is from Trevor Noah, having an accent just means that you are using the rules of one language in another language. In fact, having an accent actually, if anything, it means you're really smart, because that means that you speak more than one language, right? You can't have an accent unless you know another language. It doesn't make sense. Like babies, when babies are born, they don't speak with a different accent. And the reason for that is because babies often, throughout their life, before they're starting to speak, they have lots of input. They're listening to a lot of, the accent. Oftentimes, the parents will speak to them in a language, and that will be the language probably the baby will start speaking in. And they have all this input. So you don't have a baby that, for example, if it's a Spanish baby, and every time like the parents are speaking Spanish, the baby will not have an Americanized Spanish. Like the baby won't say hola, right? Because it doesn't make sense unless that's what they've been inputted. And so, quick reminder, just think about your experiences. There are plenty of people, maybe in your country, maybe in your city, that maybe they because they grew up there, they speak the language perfectly or fluently. Doesn't mean anything. It just means that they grew up in that environment, and so they speak that language. It doesn't mean they're smarter or stupider than anybody else. I'll use my own experience just really quickly. For example, my English, when people listen to me, most people, I live in Toronto, I am Canadian. Most people think that I grew up here because apparently I have a native accent, whatever that means. I was born in Hong Kong. I spent 18 years of my life in different places around Asia, and up until I was 18 years old, I had never lived in any place where English was the majority spoken language. Now, the only reason why I have this kind of accent is not because I'm smarter than anybody else. It's because my entire life I was in an English-speaking environment in school. My studies, I went to international schools. So I was very privileged to have that experience, but it's not like I'm gifted or anything. It's just that my entire teaching was English. Most of my teachers were from Canada, from the States, from Australia, from New Zealand, from the UK. And so, yeah, at home, I would always be on internet, watching YouTube in English, and the TV was in English. I was watching a lot of Cartoon Network, and that's why I speak English like this. Nothing more. And so the last thing I want to mention is just this. Be proud of your accent. Whether you're learning a language for the first time, whether you're trying to learn, for example, English, be proud of it. There's nothing wrong with you. In fact, if anything, it's good. It's perfectly normal. It means that you're trying. It means that you are attempting to learn something new. The only caveat I would say, the only time where, I don't want people to think, oh, okay, JJ says just doesn't matter what your accent is. Okay, so just say whatever you want. Okay, true. At the same time, you have to respect the fact that there is an element, like I said earlier, language is about communication. So if you can't communicate, that's a different question. If you can't communicate, like if the way you're saying something is so different, then that's a different question. Now, this isn't to say things might change. For example, in many languages, you have situations where because many people speak in a different way with an accent, the language actually changes so that new accent becomes the standard, becomes the official version. So that can change. But I do want to emphasize that I'm not saying if you speak or trying to learn a different language, you should not care at all about pronunciation. Because on the other hand as well, trying to pronounce things is also a form of empathy, I think. It's a form of trying to understand where the other people are coming from. And it's a delicate balance because I do think that most of the time when people are speaking in a different language, most of the time they're trying to do it with respect. They're trying their best to speak. And it can be very difficult. Maybe there are certain sounds, certain phonemes that don't exist in their native language. And so that's why it's so difficult. But yes, please, please, please be proud of your accent, whatever it is, and have compassion. When you see someone speaking your language or another language that you speak with a different accent, remember that they probably speak another accent too. And have compassion for yourself. When you're speaking, don't get angry at yourself for not speaking perfectly, because it doesn't exist. It does not exist. And I want you to remember that when you say something and when people don't understand you, there are so many different reasons why that could be. Maybe you're saying it correctly and other people are just not listening. You really don't know. And finally, I'm not going to sugarcoat it. There are going to be plenty of people who will respect that you're learning a new language, and there's going to be plenty of people that hate it. But remember this: what people think about you, what people say about you, is more of a reflection of themselves and not of you. So if people are angry at you for speaking or trying to learn a new language, oftentimes it's jealousy. Maybe they wish they could do the same. Maybe they feel threatened because their world is so small that they think everyone only speaks one language. I don't know. But I'm encouraging you, please, 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 don't be afraid. Be proud of your accents. It's beautiful. It gives life diversity. It's how, with different languages is blending together, it's how we have new expressions, new words. It makes life more colorful, and it makes the universe and the world, I believe, a better place. So just to summarize really quickly, 3 things. Well, language is about communication. Having an accent is not about intelligence. It just means that you're speaking another language with the rules of a different language. Second thing, my personal story, well, I only speak English like this not because I'm smart. It's just because of my experiences. My entire life, I've had schooling in English. And so that's been really, really, I guess, helpful in terms of why my accent is the way it is. And lastly, number 3, please be proud of your accent. It's fine. That's it. That's all from me. Have a great week. That's JJ out.